We welcome you all to slow motion for this presentation of the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors Series, and we're about to grab the start in just a few moments' time. It's going to be Megan Overstreet leading them to green with Ladar right alongside. We're waiting for that green flag to come at, and the drivers are now on their way. Some of these drivers may be a little bit more aggressive towards the end of this race, as side by side with Love and DeGassis heading into 5.
Oh, it's close. It's a bit treacherous on the corner. Rex is just seeing Lynn run wide there, Ron.
Down the running order, Love and Brewster, meanwhile, they have been in the tow and they've seen all these drivers try and do their own maneuvers. They definitely have something cooking behind the wheel of those FV race cars. As Montgomery gets that move done, one's running at the back. Well, not actually running right now, I don't believe, as there's a spinner with Ladar.
Oh, no.
Oh, and there's contact as well. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting. Welcome back to the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. This is round number 3 of the season, coming to you today from the New Hampshire Motor Speedway. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. For the first time ever in the history of the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, we have some rain to talk about. The whole dynamic we usually see in this series is probably going to be chucked out the window today. But strangely enough, I'm not entirely convinced that we'll see a standard rain race either. So Josh, buckle up, because this is going to be a rather wild run.
Yeah, I'd have to say so for sure, Ron. I don't think I've ever seen a V in the rain, let alone here on the Weekend Warriors either, and I think that might be the case for a lot of our drivers out there today as well. So this is going to be a bit of a journey of discovery there for all of us, and pretty interested to see on this combo as well as the rain here. It's going to be a bit of a unique race today, I think.
Unique indeed. Driving around a racetrack, which is unique as well. You know, usually you think of the New Hampshire Motor Speedway Oval, the Magic Mile, and you think, okay, yeah, rather odd track in the NASCAR world. Flat corners, you'd usually expect high banks, but no, the corners around here just about flat. The Roval, on the other hand, usually you think of Rovals, okay, infield sections. No, most of this road course consists of the outfield section in what's basically RV parking. True professionals, I knock into my mic stand. Hopefully that didn't get picked up on the microphone there, but this track is a rather peculiar one. And I think we'll do a quick little onboard lap with Jason Green, the driver of the 160 car, heading your way off down this start-finish straightaway into turn number 1, a decreasing radius bend, which is so tricky to try and psych out, but now heading through down the gears into turn number 1. This section, the chicane, oh so difficult. Look out for turn 2, the slowdowns, real pain in the butt there, but the track limits are rather odd around this track, along with the track layout as well, because sometimes a little bit more lenient, like turn 3 a couple of moments ago, or the run up now into turn number 4, going through the gears yet again, a heavy braking zone. Look at that, taking a whole lot of liberties on that inside. Hey, if it's asphalt, you may as well use it. You pay for the whole racetrack, and you may as well use the whole thing. That was turn number 5 we just went through a couple of moments ago. Small low flat out blast now into turn number 6. Despite being the road course layout, that turn 6 probably has more banking than the oval does, which really speaks volumes about the way that New Hampshire is. That's turn 7. Now about to head your way through turn number 8. Such a tricky section here, going downhill, trying to figure out where the apex is through this corner. You got a bunch of tire bundles there that Jason Green nearly hit. That's turn number 10 with that rock on the inside. It doesn't even feel like a curve, just feels like a rock that these drivers are going to try not to slam into. This is turn number 11 and 12, the final few corners of this lap, taking a little bit of a runoff into the grass, and that's turn 13 to get your way back onto the oval. That's a pit entry that we just saw Jason Green run through to complete a lap around this peculiar little racetrack.
Yeah, it is a bit of a strange layout, isn't it, Ron? And that, you know, things like the bump and the highly cambered corner there, and you know, there's definitely a little bit of undulation and stuff as well. And then throw in, you know, a bit of an oval section on the side of it as well, just for an extra unique bit of uniqueness there. And you can see Jason Green just struggling out there in the rain as well, trying to get that front end turned in. And it's going to be a bit of an interesting one, I think, to get the tires warmed up today, and then be able to keep them warm and not fall to the wayside here to the rain. I'm not sure if we're actually going to get any actual downpour here. It doesn't look like it's getting any worse, but I guess we'll have to see here as it goes on.
And thankfully, Jim Brewster and the entire Formula Vee Weekend Warriors admin team deciding to go with a bit more of a consistent level of rain all throughout this session. So the wetness that you see out there going to remain about the same. iRacing marking the track currently as lightly wet, but the precipitation chance is still at 100%. In terms of the temperatures as well, overcast skies at the moment. Obviously, it is still raining. 72 degrees currently being the ambient temperature. The track temperature, though, 61 degrees Fahrenheit. That is bone-chillingly cold. Trying to get some heat into those tires gonna be a real tough ask with conditions like this. And also having to deal with your competitors. We'll mention this yet again, as we have done throughout the first two broadcasts of this season. We got the Masters category to talk about as well. In the past, it's just been Spec 1 and Spec 2, but now we've got the Formula Vee Masters category. And I think talking about the classes, we should maybe take a look at the championship point standings, because we do have two races on the board, two very excitable races to kick this season off. The first being at Brands Hatch, the second at Lime Rock. We've had two different Spec 1 winners, the same winners in Spec 2, and two different winners in the Masters category. So I think we'll start off with the top class, shall we say, Spec 1, and it's your reigning champion here for the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, Thor Tulloh, currently leading the points, 193 on the board. Had to go a little bit farther back to find Nate Coliseo off the back of a win at Lime Rock just 1 week ago. Finds himself in second, Jason Green in third, Silvan Khan in fourth, and Matthew Marcia rounding out your top five in the Spec 1 category. Only 10 points between Coliseo and Green as Tulloh already tries to check out. Looking to go back to back, and considering he's a real-life Formula Vee racer, no more fitting man would be able to try and get that deed done. Moving now into Spec 2, and it's been the story of dominance surrounding Andrew Love. He's won two of the races thus far in the Spec 2 category, was really fast at Brands Hatch and run into a little bit of luck by his own admission at Lime Rock just 1 week ago, but he finds himself in the championship lead. Travis Rail in the 284 car finds himself in P2, Daniel Salmon in third, Esteval Laurencio currently classed in fourth, and Chris Doden running out the top five in the Spec 2 category. And we'll move on to Masters, which has always been a really intriguing class to take a look at. And here it is. Jörg already has a victory this season, that coming at the last race of the season at Brands Hatch, finished P2 overall in the process as well. Finds himself in the Masters Championship lead, 166 points on the board. Jim Brewster, the 22 back. Brewster already has a win this season, that coming in the season opener at Brands Hatch. Those two going to be going tit for tat in terms of that Masters class championship fight. Jim Brewster, the series admin, and Jörg, a Weekend Warriors staple, both going to look to impress all throughout this season. Even though we've already got two on the board, going to make it three by the end of today's broadcast, still have a whole lot of time left to go in this season, Josh, for some drivers to make some more inroads in those championship fights.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. And only being round 3 here, it's definitely all still to have out there in every class, I would say. And, nobody totally dominating yet, although we're seeing kind of our usual suspects up at the front. Still all to play for everybody else back there as well, to find some pace. And who knows, maybe some tracks out there that kind of suit them better, or suit maybe our usual suspects a little bit less. Or maybe even some rain befalling us here at a few rounds as we go forward as well. Maybe we'll get some more rain than today, after today, depending on how it goes, I would say. But looks like we're about to get qualifying kicked off here, if we can't find somebody coming out of the pit here, Ron.
Yeah, let's see if anyone has decided to hit the racetrack yet. And if you've just tuned into this broadcast and haven't tuned into any of the other Formula Vee broadcasts that we do every single Saturday here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, first off, if you never want to miss out on any of the racing actions, you'll probably hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But here's the format: 15-minute long qualifying session, a solo session with these drivers given 4 laps to try and set their best possible time, and that'll lead us into a 30-minute long race, a race which I am fully expecting to be a rather peculiar one in the history of this series, Josh. These drivers have a tradition. Every single Friday night before one of these broadcasts, they all go out there on the racetrack in an iRacing session and get a little bit of time behind the wheel, get their bearings straight, and figure out the do's and don'ts, the ins and outs, and try and figure out some possible jumps as well. But these racers make it a tradition to get their way onto the racetrack every single Friday, and I was very fortunate to be able to join some of these drivers last night, and I learned a lot in that experience. I'll tell you some of the things that I did learn, Josh. First off, this corner that we're seeing right now, that turn 6 is going to be possibly the hardest corner on this entire lap. Wayne Buttermore, who we're following right now, just going through it a few moments ago. But that section, that is, in my view, hell on earth, because you see that racing line midway through it, all the rubber's just caked onto there, and if anyone knows a little bit about rain racing, you know that if you touch the regular racing line in those wet conditions, it'll feel like you're driving on a slip and slide. So that's going to be possibly the hardest corner for these drivers to tackle throughout this race and this qualifying session that we're still in the midst of right now. Other challenging bends as well, but one thing I certainly learned, Josh, is it's a little bit counterintuitive. I mentioned that problem with turn number 6 and how you want to stay off the racing line more often than not, but as we see Wayne Buttermore run wide through turn number 1 and end up in the grass on that first chicane, I want to say that usually when it comes to rain racing, you want to run off the racing line, try and figure out where the grip is, but with these Formula V's low powered as they are, you can't really afford to do that. So it's the yin and yang, the back and forth, the seesaw motion between wanting to have a lot of grip through the corners, but also take the optimal line to carry as much speed through them as you possibly can. So that's going to be a real tough balancing act for these racers today.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. When it rains like this out there, and even when if it starts to dry up, is kind of my worst fear. When I'm racing in the rain, is that it just starts to get so spotty everywhere, and it gets very difficult to find the grip. You can see him going over one of the painted lines there. Those little painted lines during the race, if you hit the brake on them or make too sudden of a move on them, they will bite you. Very little things like that can take you out in a rain race. You can be kind of comfortable and thinking, I kind of got my hands around this car. Everything feels pretty good. It's sliding around, but I'm okay. And then if you just even touch one of these little painted areas in the wrong way, you're just gone, and your whole race can be over really quickly. So there's a lot of pitfalls out there to find you in a rain race, and really the best way to do is just kind of try to keep your nose down and be nice and light on those controls and just try to keep it together for the whole race here. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see as well, Ron, once we get into a big draft train, just exactly how that looks for the guy in about 5th or 6th or 7th or sometimes even 10th or 11th place in that draft train. I would imagine it's going to be a little bit hard to see today.
I don't want to make too many assumptions because considering my pace behind the wheel of a Formula V on iRacing, I wasn't involved in one of those big packs during the Formula V Weekend Warriors draft party last night, but I have a sneaking suspicion that a driver running 5th or 6th in line in a giant draft pack, they're probably going to have the same vision of the track in front of them as my, at this point, he'd probably be, 115-year-old grandfather with cataracts would probably have seen back in the day. So it's not going to be pleasant for some of these drivers. Just no visibility at all, and no visibility around a racetrack, which isn't used a whole lot on the iRacing platform, Josh. I think we've done some Weekend Warriors broadcasts together, but those have been in the spec racer forwards. Haven't really seen the Formula V's make their appearance around this racetrack. It's just one that isn't used quite often, and up until a couple of weeks ago, before this current season of iRacing for Season 1 of 2025, this whole venue looked completely different because it was an old scan.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, actually, I think it might have even been last season was the first time that the Weekend Warriors ever went here. I think was with the SRFs. I actually had the pleasure of driving in that race, and honestly, this is a pretty fun track. It's kind of different than everywhere else. A lot of people don't like it. I didn't really mind it, but then again, I kind of like a lot of sort of odd tracks like this one as well. I just kind of go out there and try to find, especially if people don't like it, I'll usually go out and try to find a reason to like it and try to make it a fun track for myself. But this one is genuinely actually kind of fun. It's got some pretty unique challenges, got some kind of cool passing areas, a little bit of undulation, and then you have that drafting chance kind of coming out onto the oval as well. So, some people really don't like it when all those things are put together like that, but I don't mind it, and it does kind of separate some of the drivers that are maybe a little bit more adventurous from the ones that aren't.
Yeah, I think that's a very good word to describe how these drivers have to tackle this race. They need to be somewhat adventurous, trying to figure out what lines are going to work well for them. Even in this qualifying session right now, these drivers have some good lap times on the board as it stands currently. Jason Green on the provisional pole at the moment, not only overall but in the Spec 1 category as well. Andrew Love, though, an incredibly impressive performance, finds himself in second at the moment. That's a very good lap time for the driver of the 544 car, but I jinxed it as Thor Tulloh jumps in front of him to go up to P2. Following CJ Berry, Christopher Berry, I've heard him been called with both names, so we'll use him interchangeably. CJ, Chris, Berry in the 65. We saw him at the end of last season here from the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, Joshuah Okayama, and that incredible championship fight between Green and Tulloh. It allowed this man, Barry, to slip by the both of them and take what was a pretty good victory. So now coming back here to the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, I believe he has been a staple of the past seasons of the Weekend Warriors world on the iRacing platform. So he's certainly not a newcomer, but a newcomer to this season. Haven't seen him race in the first 2 races of this season, but he's here for the 3rd and putting in a pretty good performance at the moment. I think his qualifying session is done, so he's going to be at best 6th, but still nice to see him back out on the racetrack.
Yeah, absolutely. He's kind of right in the midst there of right in the 21.7s with about 3 or 4 other drivers there in a nice tight little pack. That's going to be probably it's going to get a little bit froggy, I think, in there during the race for sure. But we can see Jason Green there up in the front with a 21.3, who's definitely class of the field at the moment. He's found something else out there, and that can sometimes just, you know, be down to kind of how much rain is on the track, as it does kind of look, Ron, like it's sort of picking up a little bit to me. I'm not sure if my eyes are deceiving me here, but that spray looks like it is getting a little bit thicker, which is going to make it, you know, pretty much impossible to get a faster lap time going forward here in the rest of this session. But it looks like Jason Green was able to pip one out there before it got a little bit too wet.
And it looks like it's going to be the pole for Jason Green, and he improves there to go to a 121.346. That's a pretty good lap time from Green. Guido Marzucchi jumping his way up into second, my apologies. So well done to Marzucchi in the 19. I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, he is a Spec 1 racer, so still Andrew Love on the pole in the Spec 2 category. Jim Brewster, to be a bit more precise, is on the provisional pole of the Masters racers, right in front of his Masters adversary, shall we say, Jörg Mani. Those two covered by practically nothing. That's what, 300ths of a second between those two, so that's very, very good. Now following Jesus Rodriguez, a driver of the number 76 car. He was your champion for Season 3 of 2024 here from the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. Had a stinker of a season, shall we say, in Season 4 of 2024. But he's back now for Season 1 of 25, and he's been a full-time driver thus far. He's made every single race, but it's mean of me to say, because he is a very fast racer. Outside of a couple of moments here and there, he hasn't really made too big of an impression, not really sticking out as a championship contender compared to the likes of Green and Tulloh. Currently qualified in 15th at the moment, and based off the fact I think he stopped and towed back to pit lane, that may do it for his qualifying session. Lots of these drivers getting to the end of their session. One of them, I believe, maybe Andrew Love, who we're riding on board with right now, currently qualified in 4th top of the Spec 2 racers. As is it an improvement from him? I don't believe it is, so Love going to remain in 4th.
Yeah, it looks like Love's going to pip in there at the top of the 21.7s in that 4 or 5 drivers there, just nose and tail with each other. And then Jason Green all the way out in the front with the 21.3, 21.4, and then a 21.5 back to 3rd. So it definitely does look like, you know, and this is sort of the way it seems to go on these or in these rain races as well, where you're going to have kind of some specialists out there that enjoy the rain, and then some other people who are kind of struggling in the rain as well. So haven't really been in the V's in the rain yet, but it looks like they're pretty slippery out there. I think we saw it was CJ Berry there a few minutes ago. If you're paying attention to his lap, he was definitely getting the rear end of the car loose in a few of the corners there, and it actually looked like it might be kind of helping him find some time as well, which is a dangerous game to play out there. So, well, we should be seeing a little bit of that out there too, and people just kind of struggling to get that lap in.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm shocked we haven't really mentioned thus far in this qualifying session, just getting those clean laps on the board. I remember from my experience in the Formula Vee draft party yesterday how difficult it was just to get some good lap times on the board. So these racers certainly using their experience in the draft party, if they were a part of it, to try and get the most out of their race cars, but just enjoying some of the added time. in this qualifying session, riding on board with Jason Green. Bearing in mind, folks, 4 laps are at these drivers' disposals. Jason Green is currently on his 5th as he toes back to pit lane. So getting some more experience at their on-track. 28 cars have currently set a qualifying time. This is Salmon in the 2:29 car, currently our last place qualifier at the moment, saying a 1 minute 25.6. And I will tell a little bit of a story from that draft party and my experience in it. Yesterday night, I was setting around a 1 minute 23. That was just about the time that I was setting. I think it was a 1:23.5 to be a bit more precise, kind of in that low to mid 1:23 range. So I was rather okay with those times that I was setting, and bearing in mind, folks, there's a very good reason why I'm behind a microphone instead of behind the wheel. I would rather make a butt out of myself talking instead of driving. But right now, seeing Salmon crossing the line in a couple of moments' time, is it an improvement from him trying to get a grips to these tough conditions, or will he remain in 28th? I don't believe it will be an improvement on that time. Currently about a second back of Travis Royal, who's only 1 spot in front in 27th, but not a whole lot of time left to go in this qualifying session. Looks like most of the drivers have set the lap times already, so it's going to be Jason Green grabbing the pole, and Guido Marzucchi with a very impressive result from the Italian in the number 19, going to join Green on the front row as it stands at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like we got pretty close behind there, about a 100th of a second behind, and we know that's just not going to be much of anything around here, especially with that big banked out section out onto the oval here, where you're just going to be able to haul, I mean, probably 5 or 6 tenths, 8 tenths, 9 tenths, all the way down there and catch right back up to the person in front of you. So, you know, even though the infield around here is actually pretty tricky and it takes some practice and stuff like that, you can kind of make up for a little bit of it, at least out on that back straight, if you don't have the overall pace perhaps on your competitor here. But, you know, it is going to be pretty important to get that infield done nice and clean as well, considering I think, you know, down that back straight, like we were mentioning, Ron, I think it might get a little bit spray in your face and not be able to see anything at all. And I'm kind of interested to see, once we do get going here, exactly how that's going to kind of affect our usual kind of 3, 4, 5 wide sometimes down the front straight into T1 around places like this, if the water's going to kind of inhibit that a little bit, because you just can't see where you're going.
Yeah, I have some experience driving in some spray in real life, and it is never a fun experience. I'll tell you what, Josh, sharing a quick little story here as we're still in this qualifying session with about 45 seconds left to go. The most terrified I've ever been behind the wheel is driving on a cold winter's night with rain in the air in my 1985 Oldsmobile and just being absolutely blinded by all the bright LED headlights and all that stuff. It's a pretty odd experience, to be sure, but thankfully these drivers won't have to deal with any of the flashing lights unless these drivers decide to go back to their garage, seal off their mechanics' flashlights, and just duct tape it to the front of the car. Even then, I don't even think that's going to help you too much. And there we go. There's the boulder on the inside of turn 10. I think we should just call that boulder turn, because that curb on the inside. I don't know about you, Josh, and the experience you've had around this racetrack, but in the Formula Vee draft party yesterday, I just flat out hit that just to see, and I nearly ballparked it into the infield. So that's going to be something that we have to talk about in this race for sure. Of all the trouble spots, that may end up being one of them, but I think we'll wrap a bow around that storyline now and move on to the starting grid, which I think we'll be getting up in a couple of moments. Qualifying is officially drawn to a conclusion, and here is the starting grid. Jason Green going to be grabbing the pole, Guido Marzucchi going to join him on the front row, Thor Tulloh in 3rd, Andrew Love in 4th, Nate Coliseo starting this race in the 5th starting spot, Chris Montgomery in 6th, CJ Berry in 7th, Jim Brewster grabbing the Masters pole position, going to be starting this race in 8th, Jörg Monty, 2nd of the Masters driver, is going to be starting right behind him, P9, Mark Cohn going to round at your top 10. Then we have Brian Sazinski in 11th, Michele Lynn, who, fun fact time, actually did her final ever real life race around this very racetrack a couple of years ago. She's going to be starting this race in 12th. Adam Thompson, SMB's very own, in P13. Joshua Justice in 14th. Artur Lorero starting this race in the 15th starting spot. Then we have Jesus Rodriguez, Jason Grider, Jason Perry, Alebrio Garcia starting this race in 19th, and Jeff Jacobson rounding out the top 20.
Yeah, we got Trip Isley in S2 there, Dan Stasinski in 22nd, Nick Tulloh in 23rd, Michael Laturo in 24th, and then moving on to 25th here, we have Jeff Rebeck. 26th is Wayne Buttermore in the Masters class, 27th is Travis Rail, 28th is Daniel Salmon, 29th David Fitzgerald, 30th Ken Poulin, 31st Russ Lumberg, and then I believe we have a couple more here. Oh, nope, we actually do not have a starter here in the last one, or is that my just telemetry updating? Nope, 31 racers today. Russ Lumberg, looks like he's actually not taking the start today.
I saw some messages from Russ in the YouTube chat kind of talking about this combination and it not being a fun one to be sure, so I think that could possibly be the reason why we're going to have 30 starters at the very most taking to the green in about a lap's time. This track, rather short, you know, despite the fact it's got a pretty busy amount of corners, 13 numbered according to the iRacing track map. It's only 1.53 miles long, so it is a very busy ride for these drivers and going to be a busy race as well. I'd actually like to touch on a brief low point here. Ken Poulin has also disconnected from the session, so going to have 29 starters taking the green flag in the not too far off future. I will say before we grab the green though that today's broadcast of the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors is being brought to you by Michael Lattarulo, one of the drivers in this very race. We would like to thank Michael for making today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting possible. And speaking of this broadcast, if you like what you're seeing slash hearing slash watching thus far, whatever way you're consuming this broadcast, it may be a good idea to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action, not only from the Formula V's or the Spectre Racer Fords or the Formula Fords in all of the Weekend Warriors series, but just all the action that we have here at SMB, because it's really coming at you soon to be daily, keeping our fingers crossed for that. But Josh, heading into this race, we outlined the challenges. Who is going to be the one that rises to acclaim and takes their victory? Is it going to be Thor Tulloh grabbing another victory this season? Jason Green going to try and challenge him. We may see Guido Marzucchi grab the victory. Only time will tell. The green flag's down. The drivers are on their way. And Jason Green getting off to a flyer. A little bit disorganized on the drop of the green flag, but he'll be leading them. Heading down into turn number 1. Such a hard braking zone, trying to get a turn into the corner and avoid that grass. This, though, this is a real tricky spot. That's turn number 2. It may not seem like a very challenging corner, but the slowdowns through there. Saw some drivers get bit by that bullet in the practice and qualifying sessions earlier on. May see that yet again here in the race, but heading our way down into turn number 4, one of the heaviest braking zones on this lap, and riding on board with the driver of the 099 car of Joshua Justice. Currently finds himself in 9th, already a hard charger of 5 spots where he started in this race. Michele, Lynn, though, running a little bit farther up the road in 5th, up 7. So lots of drivers cutting their way through the field like a hot knife through butter and making hay while the sun is shining, even though the rain's still coming down.
Yeah, we got some fast movers there right off the beginning. It's something you probably want to monopolize on right away, honestly, in a rain race. If you can get a couple spots right off the jump and not have to deal with any more spray, probably a good idea here. And it looks like Michele monopolized on a couple moves there right at the beginning to kind of bring her up into the front of the pack here. So let's see if she can't hold on to it, as Jason Green kind of looks like he is starting to pull away a little bit so far.
Yeah, that's looking like a pretty good gap from Jason Green to complete the first lap of this race. Marzucchi and Tulloh, though, they may try and help Green extend that gap as they're now side by side heading down the start-finish straightaway off into turn 1. Tulloh getting that move done to slip his way up into the lead of this race. Looking at the rest of the drivers running through this field, there's Adam Thompson running in lucky number P13. As it stands in some of the other classes, though, Michele Lynn with that flyer of a start, she's leading it in the Spec 2 category. And in the Masters, Jim Brewster still holding on to that lead in front of Jörg. Those two cars covered by about 0.3 of a second, so that fight is very much on in that Masters category. As Nate Coliseo maybe got a move done on Guido Marzucchi. They're side by side heading up the hill, coming to have turn number 5, about to careen their way down through the braking zone into turn number 6. It looked like Marzucchi has held off the challenge from Coliseo for now, but Coliseo nearly making contact with Marzucchi heading through the banked left-hander of turn number 6. Marzucchi not getting off to the start that he probably had in mind. He was battling Tulloh about a lap ago. Now Tulloh is starting to check out, and Nate Coliseo looking to try and get a move done to displace Marzucchi at the podium.
Yeah, it looks like he kind of got shuffled out a little bit there. Maybe not the start he wanted to get, Ron. And, you know, as we've been watching Coliseo here, all season long, and he's definitely seems to almost lost it there coming out of the final corner into the grass. Not an easy section there for Colacio, but yeah, we've been watching him really make some pace in the last little while here. He seems to definitely be pretty aggressive. It looks like he's got some pace. I'm expecting him to move forward here, Ron.
And speaking of pace and really the lack thereof, look at Marzuki saying a 123 last time by. That's a little disappointing for the driver that qualified for this race in second. Not sure what sort of magic he had in that qualifying, but still looking to find it in the race. Jason Green, meanwhile, certainly finding that magic. A second in front of Tulloh, is about 1.3 seconds in front of Marzuki, who runs wide yet again, heading through 4 and 5. That may be another opportunity for Nate Colacio to get a move done. But look at Michele Lynn there in the 215 car, representing the 215 area code in the city of Philadelphia. Finds herself in 5th, still trying to make up some spots from the lead in Spec 2. You've got Marzuki and Colacio, who may start to battle here in the not too far off future right in front of her. So Michele Lynn looking to try and make hay while the sun is shining, and hoping that Acme in the corner doesn't come back to hit her.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. It looks like Guido may be kind of struggling out there a little bit, and he's actually kind of causing this other pack to kind of start to move back a little bit from those two front drivers, and that's not something you really want to see if you're Nate Colacio or Michele Lynn here. And it looks like Michele Lynn is kind of trying to size up a move on Colacio here, and I have a feeling Colacio is going to want to get by Guido as quickly as possible. You never know, though, right? It's one of those things where you think you kind of have the number of the competitor in front of you. He's struggled the last 2 laps, maybe even 3 laps, and then all of a sudden they start putting it together on you. And, if you don't kind of adjust yourself to things like that, especially in the rain, you can end up sideways and in the barrier pretty quick if you start pushing too hard trying to catch that guy in front. So it's a pretty interesting thing there to kind of try to think about the guy in front of you. And is he making mistakes, or am I catching him on actual pace, or is this just because he's made a couple mistakes? And it looks like now, as I said it here, Guido hasn't made a mistake this lap, and that gap seems to be growing a little bit again.
I think the past few laps he's been making the same mistake, heading through 4 and 5, and Josh, I can't necessarily say that I blame him having those moments, because I had my fair share of them too, heading through that exact same section. Turn 4 around this track, doubly so in the rain, trying to figure out how much of that inside asphalt you can actually take. It's such a counterintuitive corner, and it feels like if you get it a little bit wrong, carry like a mile an hour or two more than you really should. You're just going to find yourself hitting the grass and having a really tough ride through that section. And you got to keep that momentum through there as well, because that's when the infield becomes the outfield, and you got to climb the hill to go into that sort of RV parking lot section that makes up most of the outfield of this race circuit. So that's a really troubling corner to have a mistake at, but right now one driver certainly hoping to not have a mistake is Jim Brewster, our leader still in the Masters category. You got Jörg Monty right behind, though. These two going to be hounding each other. They have 2 victories a pop thus far this season, hoping that the other can try and lose out on some time and become the first to have a good opportunity to try and grab their second win of the season, as we're going to take a look at a replay to see Nate Colacio and Guido Marzuki maybe having a moment together heading off into turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like he pretty simply just kind of got by him here into T1, was able to get it slowed down there and got by Guido, got a pretty good haul down the straight, and was able to kind of just make that one happen pretty easy. But as you can see, not maybe the easiest thing in the world to do to get it slowed down into T1 right there. Is not an easy one to do often, especially around here in the rain, Ron.
Yeah, trying to get a move like that, it may seem textbook, but in conditions like this, it is anything but. I want to touch on a point that I raised in the qualifying session earlier, talking about the somewhat troubling track conditions. It shows you the difference between a qualifying session versus a race session. The fact that track temperature has shot up over 14 degrees since qualifying, but right now the temperature is raising both on the track surface itself, and in terms of these drivers' heads, look at Green and Tulloh. They're covered by nothing the two drivers who were battling for the Spec 1 championship 1 season ago. We were expecting these two to be back in championship contention. Tulloh already has a victory. Green doesn't, but Green looking to try and seize the opportunity. He won that Formula Vee draft party last night, and looking to try and carry that same form here into today's race. Leading still over Tulloh, but that gap is practically nothing. A small little trip up from either of them can really shake up that fight as we take a look at a moment involving Jörg.
Yeah, it looks like Jörg made his way by Jim Brewster here. It's a bit of a pack of cars kind of trying to mob Jim. Yeah, I think you're right there, Ron. Good eye. Believe he must have had a slowdown there because he definitely slowed and pulled out to the side and let his competitors by, and it looks like all three cars are going to get him here by the end too. So that's pretty unfortunate there. And you know, back up at the front, as you were mentioning there, Ron, it definitely looks like the steering racks are tightening up a bit in those two front cars, and they're getting a little bit pointy. They've definitely started racing each other out front there.
Yeah, they're getting really, really racy at this point in time, covered by nothing. They may be side by side, hang off into turn number 1. Green and Tulloh battling for the race lead. Looks like Tulloh going to back out of it, heading through the turn 1 and 2 chicane, which in my view, Josh, is such a hard section to try and get right. Because you got turn 1, you got turn 2, you got turn 3. All of them drive completely differently, and whoever can match that is going to be able to get the move done. But the exit is so important, as Tulloh trying to get the move done on Green around the outside through turn number 4. Gets a little bit squirrely through the brakes, though. That's going to allow Green to hold off in that spot. But look at Tulloh going for the undercut, side by side, going up the hill out of turn number 5. Now into 6. Who's going to win out in this battle? The battle last late breakers, with Tulloh going for a sideways moment. Heading into 6. Well held from Tulloh. Got to lose out on P2 to Nate Colacio, but that was a beautiful drift. Not going to win him another spot, but certainly going to win him from some style points. Those painted white lines on the outside of the corner, I think, may have claimed another victim. Let's take a look at it, Josh.
Yeah, I think you might be right, Ron. He just touched one of those little, it was the painted line we were talking about. You put even just a tiny bit of grass, even in a V, not moving too quick through one of those corners onto the paint. And man, that's it. And unfortunately, that's going to take him out of that battle, at least for now. And I'd be kind of surprised if he can catch back up to Jason after this. But you never know with this draft train. If him and Colacio can kind of get together, work together a little bit, they may be able to make it back up there to Jason, especially around somewhere like New Hampshire here.
That right there is an incredibly costly mistake from Thor Tulloh. Thankfully, though, he has a pretty big cushion in that championship fight, but he's got two of the drivers who, in my humble opinion, Josh, are going to be the ones that are going to be the biggest thorn in the side for Tulloh all throughout this season, as Michele, Lynn maybe getting a move done on Guido Marzucchi into turn number 4. I think this may be another slowdown being served, so Marzucchi going to be dropping back, very similar to what we saw from Jim Brewster. Turn 2, I've mentioned it throughout this broadcast, and I will mention it again. That little slowdown area through turn number 2, it is deadly. You pick up a 1 second slowdown through that section, and you're just going to drop down like a rock, as we saw from Marzucchi. He was running in a podium spot, started this race in P2. He's now dropped down to 9. So a small little slowdown going to have very big consequences as side-by-side racing with Mark Cohn and Adam Thompson heading up the hill through the outfield section right now, side-by-side now through turn number 9. Thompson still trying to wheel it on the inside, but not able to get that move done.
Not quite there, eh? That was definitely hammer and tong for a moment, and he's not giving up yet either here, so I would imagine it's going to be a pretty standard one down the front straight here for Adam to get by Mark Cohn, but you never know going into T1 the way we see, that paint can get you, the spray can get you, the brakes can get you around here right now, and it looks like he's going to be able to get the inside here into T1 fairly simple as long as he can get her slowed down, and yep, he's going to get that move done for now, and hopefully we can move forward a little bit more as well here. Jörg kind of all by himself now as well. He's sort of lost touch with that pack, and Jim Brewster kind of getting kind of swamped by everybody. I think those slowdowns have definitely reared their head for a few of our drivers here on.
I think one driver who may have gotten reared the worst by that slowdown, maybe Guido Marzucchi. He went down pit lane a couple of moments ago, and he's dropped down to 20th. I'm curious if he picked up some sort of drive-through penalty or something like that, did the driver of the number 19 car, because there you can see him heading his way through turn 4 right now, running well farther back compared to the competitors that he was around a matter of 2 laps ago. So what's going down with Guido Marzucchi? And also what's going down with Joshua... Oh, my apologies, folks. Joshua Justice. I believe he's completely out of this race. Yeah, Joshua Justice out of it. So I think there's been some incidents throughout this race thus far. It's been mostly clean without any sort of like major pileups or flips. But I think Joshua Justice, just the latest driver to get hit by that falling anvil.
Yeah, that's kind of a strange one there, Ron. On our telemetry here too, we do not seem to have any information on what exactly may have happened to Joshua Justice there. So it could be as simple as a hardware failure or something, or maybe internet, something related to that. And unfortunately, we've just lost him from the race here.
Yeah, looking at the iRacing chat, I was just going to notice the fact that his internet quality, according to iRacing, was in the red, which you don't need to be an IT expert to know that anything in the red when it comes to internet connection is never a good thing. So Joshua Justice running into some internet difficulties throughout this race. Some other drivers, though, running into some difficulties, I believe includes, but is not limited to, Jason Grider, Travis Rail, and Luis Nevea. So some drivers already running into some difficulties. Nevea, a very last-minute addition to this race, as we're going to take a look in a moment, involving Travis Rail in the 284 car, heading his way off through turn number 12 right now, goes off the circuit, through the grass, and goes for a simple spin, parked on the NASCAR Xfinity Series logo in that grass section there. And it looks like it's going to be fairly set in stone for Rail to drop back and lose out on some spots. Very fitting as well, Josh, the fact we mentioned how Joshua Justice had some internet problems, and then we see a driver spin on some Xfinity branding.
Yeah, almost immediately right after that. Unfortunately, we just we add that stuff up to like a car failure or something in sim racing, right? So it's basically the equivalent of forgetting to put a hood pin in or something like that, and you end up having to pull over because of the internet. So it's unfortunate. None of us like it when that happens. It's on our Saturday afternoons here, and we're trying to have some fun, and our internet craps out on us. But that's just what happens every once in a while, and you kind of have to roll with it and move into the next race and hope that it doesn't happen again. But it looks like we're looking at Nate Colascio here now, looking at Thor Tulloh out front, and he does seem to have made up a bit of time. And it looks like maybe that gap to Jason Green as well is either kind of staying right where it is or is slowly starting to kind of creep in on them. And if Colascio and Tulloh can play their cards right, there's still more than enough time to get back up to Green here and give him a fight.
Yeah, if these two work together, keyword being if, they may be able to grab another couple of spots. They may be able to get a move done on Jason Green, but only time will tell. I will say, though, Tulloh getting the move done to slip his way back up into second. I will touch back on this point I raised not terribly long ago before some stuff happened involving Marzuki. Actually, I might need to hold off on that as well, as Christopher Berry has had some sort of off-track excursion. He is dropping down like a rock in the number 65 car. So not entirely sure what went wrong with him. He was running, I believe, in 8th at the moment, behind some of the racers around him. Oh, you can see, running wide, and that's big wall contact, hitting the safer barrier, coming out of turn number 10. I'm curious, Josh, if we can maybe take a look at another angle of this, thank you very much, and right on board with Barry. Did he hit? No, I think, that is very peculiar. I think just an overcorrection.
A bit of a calamity there.
Yeah, a calamity indeed.
Yeah, a bit of a calamity of errors there. It looked kind of like he wasn't really quite set up for that right-hander. Little bit unbalanced in the car, and then he clipped that, we'll call it the rock on the inside there, and unsettled the car even more. And then, in the midst of trying to gather it up, just ran out of room and bumped the wall there, unfortunately. But, that can happen. That's a pretty awkward section, even when it's dry out, let alone when it's wet. And that bump, I don't know, man. When I was coming around, driving around here during the race that I did in the SRFs, that bump just kept calling me closer and closer and closer to it. And then you smoke it once, and you can actually wreck the car on it as well. So you kind of want to be careful of that one, Ron.
Yeah, it lures you in. I remember having the exact same experience in my autocrossing days with the STCA. Those cones, they tend to beckon. It's like, come on, come a little bit closer. You'll like the time that you gain. You'll like the positions that you gain. You'll be happy about the fact that you gained some time. Hit that curb, bang, into the wall, and you're out the race. So it's the double-edged sword. Racing is such a mind game, especially in these races where you have to be in a good mind frame to try and do well. You want to wipe yourself off as best as you possibly can on something, either a mistake or an incident or whatever it may be. Whenever something happens that has you feeling down, you need to just wipe the dust off your shoulders and try and pick yourself up as best as you possibly can. I think Tulloh's done a pretty good job of that, but I think Jason Green is just in a league of his own in terms of pace. We'll run on board with him for a couple of moments and talk about the pace that Jason Green has set thus far. I believe he still holds on to the fastest lap of the race, that being at a 1 minute 21.2. Very, very quick. Actually, no, I apologize. Nick Colacio currently holding on to that fast lap. But in terms of consistency, last time by, Jason Green set his best lap of the race at that 1 minute 21.233. Tulloh, though, last time by was about a half a second slower, and Colacio was nearly a full second slower than his best lap, which is still the best lap of the race. Or as they said that, though, Tulloh playing me like a fiddle to set the fast lap of the race, going to a 1 minute 21.0. Tulloh, as much as I may have had him down for the count and saying that Jason Green was being as consistent as he could possibly be to hold on to that lead, Tulloh slowly but surely reeling him in.
Yeah, 1.7 isn't much. That's one tiny little mistake or a little encounter with the rock, let's say, and he's right on you. So it looks like Thor is actually kind of pulling away from Colacio here a little bit. It looks like maybe either Colacio has made a little mistake or Thor is just kind of putting down a bit of a gauntlet here and being nice and consistent. And yeah, I mean, as we watch here, it does look like it's kind of fluctuating a little bit, between the 1.5, maybe, stretching out to about the 2 second mark. I can definitely guarantee you that Jason Green is keeping an eye on that gap, and when he sees Thor start to get a little bit close within that 1 second-ish mark, he's going to turn on the jets a little bit, and that steering rack's going to tighten up, and that gas pedal's going to hit the firewall, and he's going to try to get forward as much as he possibly can away from Thor. These things start to draft right around the 1 second mark or so. They really start to pull you into the guy in front of you, so you want to keep that 1.5, 1.3 is even starting to get a little close, as you can see now coming around here, 1.5 this lap. So he's kind of chipping a tiny little bit of time away from Jason here, and it's still kind of all still to have. That 1.3 now 1.4 second gap starts to look like not very much from Jason Green's point of view.
These drivers are having a hoot at the moment, though, going tit for tat and slowly reeling each other in. And Josh, this is going to be a real interesting spectacle when these two go side by side, because we've seen Jason Green and Tulloh battle for victories and battle for championships in the past here in the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors Series. We've never really seen them do it in the rain, though. It's the first time in Formula Vee Weekend Warriors history that rain has been a factor. Certainly won't be the last, though. We'll probably touch on that later on throughout this season. But here at New Hampshire, these drivers dealing with the mist, dealing with the rain, and dealing with the spray, and also dealing with a rather peculiar racetrack. But some of these racers also have another thing to deal with, that being their competitors in the class. In Spec 2, Michele Lynn still leading it. Andrew Love, though, right behind those two, running P5 and P6 overall, P1 and P2 in the Spec 2 category, separated by about a half a second at the moment. Love has had a clean sweep of the races thus far. Michele Lynn, she's a two-time, a couple of seasons ago, she won back-to-back Spec 2 titles here in the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors Series. So she is blisteringly quick in that 215 car. Moved into Spec 1 last season, didn't really go too well for her, but now moving back to Spec 2, she is in the hunt for a championship, but Andrew Love is as well. Side by side, heading into turn number 1, who's going to be the one to prevail? It looks like it's going to be Andrew Love getting that move done. Jörg also involved in this battle. He's still leading it in the Masters category, has a significant gap between himself and Jim Brewster, so looking fairly level there. Monty probably, he doesn't need to get involved in this fight, but Josh, you've driven with him, you've raced against him, you've covered races with him as well. Jörg Monty simply does not give up. Neither does Michele Lynn, though, trying to get a move done on Andrew Love heading down the inside turn 4.
Yeah, if there's one thing that can be said about Jörg Monty, it's that he is going to race. The man loves to race. He will race you. And, he's usually pretty clean about it and stuff, too. But that does mean, he is going to put the pressure on you for sure. If he sees a gap, if he sees one of these individuals here make a mistake, he will capitalize on it. And I guarantee you he is out there looking to gain a position right now. And so is Michele Lynn by the looks of it. Don't want to jinx anybody here, but we're having a pretty good race here so far, especially for Michele Lynn here. And I would really like to see her get a podium today. So hopefully we can keep her all together here. The rain will kind of hold out, and we can finish up a good race here with Michele Lynn in the Spec 2 class.
Yeah, this may be the well, I see the big class championship, the class fight that we're going to be keeping our eyes on. I still think that battle for the overall win and the win in Spec 1 is going to be pretty intense as well. It's now 1.2 seconds between Jason Green and Thor Tulloh. Nate Coliseo not terribly far behind them either. I'm going to ask you this here real quick, Josh. Coliseo already has a victory thus far. Actually, I'm going to hold off on that question as we see an absolute hornet's nest of Formula V race cars. I can see Jeff Jacobson, Nick Tulloh, Jason Perry, and Guido Marzucchi involved in this massive pack of race cars. Jesus Rodriguez trying to break away from it a teeny tiny bit, but 5 cars covered by practically nothing. Looks like they single file out after that run, heading to the first chicane at the start of this 17th lap. But Josh, I will raise the question I was going to ask before we saw this absolute chaos. Coliseo already has a victory this season, that coming out of the Lime Rock just 1 race ago, but that's a draft party if ever there was one in Formula V. So that is a real, it's an apples to broccoli comparison, comparing Lime Rock 1 week ago to this rain race here at New Hampshire today. But Coliseo, he's a very fast driver in this series, but he's got 2 of the best in the form of Jason Green and Thor Tulloh, who may start to battle in the not too far off future. Tulloh saying the best lap of the race last time by. So I'm going to ask you this before we see this battle start to heat up a lot, Josh. Do you think Nate Coliseo is going to get involved in it, or do you think he's going to stay a little bit farther back?
Ooh, I think that's a good question, Ron. I think at the pace out front here, the way that Thor is now, he's within about 7/10 of Jason Green, so he is in that draft. Coliseo's about 2.7 behind there, which would be around a second or so behind Tulloh. So honestly, Ron, he totally could here. If he can get a couple more seconds, I almost guarantee you these two are going to start fighting each other here shortly, and that's going to bring Coliseo into the fight, I think, and we'll have a 3-man battle by the end, as long as something doesn't go too haywire here. And, we were saying or noticing there as well, back in the pack, things starting to heat up a little bit with some of those drivers who kind of got scuffled back earlier in the race, and they are all now battling each other as well. So, in the final minutes here of the race, about 6 minutes, just under 6 minutes left, I have a feeling it's going to heat right up.
Yeah, you can feel that pressure beginning to build. You can feel the heat starting to increase for these drivers. Going to take a look at a replay, though, of some of the heat a little bit farther in the back. This is Arthur Loureiro in the 419 car. Heading his way into turn number 6, we saw Tulloh have a moment sideways through here earlier on. And looking at that contact being made, Loureiro spinning around, not sure who that was, on the inside of Loureiro. And he gets T-boned. That was Wayne Buttermore coming in. Wayne Buttermore with absolutely nowhere to go. No way to avoid that collision. A bad rejoin from Loureiro, but that's going to take both of those race cars out of it. Buttermore 1 lap down in 25th, trying to find where Loureiro is. I think he may be farther back behind Buttermore, but either way, that's going to take 2 good race cars out of any sort of hope of battling in the final 5 minutes of this race. But in the final 5, it's these two, separated by less than 0.5 of a second.
Yeah, he's definitely right up on him now. So that's another 2/10, since the last we spoke about these drivers at the front here, and he's definitely catching Jason Green now. And we're actually going to be dealing with some lap traffic here as well, in the form of, I believe it's actually is Arthur Loureiro there again, who was it did look like, I think it was Barry that got into the back of him there, unfortunately, in the bowled out corner, and spun him and shuffled him back. And yeah, it looked like Wayne just kind of had nowhere to go and rammed right into him really hard there. So unfortunately, that's kind of 2 drivers out, as it looks like Thor's going up the inside of Jason here into T1.
Here we go, side by side through the first chicane. If these two start to battle, look at Nate Coliseo, who he's going to try and get involved in this fight. I think there's a lapped car in between Tulloh and Coliseo, though, so that may play another role, as that, I think, was nearly contact between the two of them. Some bump drafting, to be sure, but some side-by-side racing into turn number 4. Tulloh wheeling it on the inside, Green holding his own on the outside line through 4 and 5. Who's going to win out on this fight? It's deja vu to what we saw earlier on in the race, but Tulloh going to get that move done finally on Jason Green, who started from the pole and has been dominant thus far in the 160 car. Tulloh, your reigning champion, going to get that move done to slip his way up into the lead. Green, though, not making the same mistake that Tulloh made earlier on in this race, not touching the paint into turn number 6, not going for a slide, and not losing out on any time. He is still within striking distance. Tulloh, as much as he's gotten that move done, this race is still far from over. You've got 3 minutes left on the clock, and what that means for Tulloh is he needs to drive a flawless final couple of laps. Doesn't want to hit the paint, doesn't want to go for a sideways snap, doesn't want to hit any barriers, doesn't want to have any sort of off-track excursions, and certainly doesn't want a slowdown. Tulloh at this stage, he needs to not put a single foot wrong. If he does that, it's still going to be tough because you got Jason Green right behind, another very fast racer. There's a very good reason these two battle for championships. But if Tulloh wants to win this race, the best thing he can do for himself is try and keep it clean.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple laps left here. Jason Green definitely has a chance to strike here, but he's going to have to get a little bit aggressive about it. And we know, well, as he tries to go up the inside here with a little bit of an opportunistic move, very well done. I think that sort of caught Thor sleeping there a little bit, but it isn't going to quite work. That outside line, just a little bit more speed on exit out into the bold corner here. So I think that maybe Thor can hold him off here, but I think the only reason I think that is because Jason Green just isn't usually super aggressive when it comes to stuff like this. He's not the kind of driver that's going to, throw one up a corner and on the last lap sort of thing in the last second of the race and wreck anybody's race. He's going to try to make it happen clean, and unless he can do that, he probably won't even try. But you never know in the rain here, Ron. We're going to have to keep a good eye on it, and it doesn't look like Colosseo's going to be able to join this battle by the end.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Colosseo is going to be able to close up that gap. It's still been a very good season for him, though, so we certainly aren't going to discount him in terms of that championship fight. The front three that we've got at this point in time are all drivers that I think come time for the end of this 12-race season here for Season 1 of 2025 for the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors are going to be the ones we have to talk about in terms of the Class Championship battles. We're all the white flag now, Josh, I believe. So only one more lap at this point. Is basically 2/3 of a lap left, but look at Jason Green still not giving up on his fight with Thor Tulloh. Tulloh maybe a little bit slower through turn number 4 and 5 than he probably had in mind, but Green at this point in time, he really needs to think about where he can get a move done, because around this racetrack in the dry, it's tough to try and get a move done, let alone in the soaking wet rain. So at this point, Jason Green gonna maybe try and think, what can he do to get a move done? Will he be able to get a move done? And the real question is, will he be able to even remain in second if he goes for a failed move? He may find himself completely out of a podium spot. You can see the understeer heading through there, trying to carry a boatload of speed through turn number 10. Oh, some lap traffic a little bit farther in front, and Tulloh getting an okay run off of turn number 12. Looks like it may not be enough for Green, but he is closing side by side. Not going to be at the line. It's going to be a little bit short in terms of time, pulling an IMSA from the 2024 Daytona 24 and calling it probably a lap early, but Thor Tulloh got to take the checkered flag, your winner for the second time this season here from the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors. Jason Green, though, certainly gave him a fight, only about a tenth and a half between those two racers after about 30 minutes of racing action, but I'm sure Jason Green may not be very happy about the fact that iRacing called that checkered flag a couple of seconds premature. If he had one more lap, I think he would have been able to get the move done on Tulloh, because it looked like Tulloh was starting to struggle.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. I was going to mention that, when you were saying it looks like maybe Jason Green's got what's he going to do to get it done here? And, I wanted to almost break in and say I think he just got it done by not trying that move that he tried on the previous lap before, because I was expecting there was going to be one more lap. And I think Jason thought there was going to be one more lap too, and he really set himself up for that draft on the last lap there. And unfortunately, it just ended a little early for him. He wasn't able to make it happen. So I think if there was one more lap, we probably would have had a pretty good fight on our hands there. But it looks like Thor's going to come out with the win today with that nice opportunistic move, and he's going to come out with the win again there, Ron. And I'm just looking at the battle between those two, and we got to say Jason just needs to get a little bit more aggressive from time to time here and see if he can't put some more screws to Thor.
Well, speaking of screws, usually these drivers like to screw around after this race, and you can kind of see the early stages of it right now. The parking lot in turn number 4, Jason Green, as much as he wasn't the one leading them to the checkered flag, he usually leads the after-race fiasco, for lack of a better term. Yeah, you see that grassy berm? That is the jump that these drivers are going to try and use. Jason Green, he's going for it. Let's see. It's one of the saddest jumps in the world, but Jason Green, oh no, he's going to get tackled nearly by Brian Szynski going over the hill. Looking at that from Green, a slide from Thompson, tumbling end over end, side over side is Jörg, Monty, and Michele Lynn. Some more drivers coming in upside down, sideways, and all sorts of different ways to be screwed up in a Formula Vee. I don't have a good feeling about Jeff Jacobson, though. Bang! Into the side of Andrew Love. Vaults over. That was Joshua Justice. That Jeff Jacobson helped Andrew Love vault over Brian Szynski, doing some donuts right now. There's Jason Perry in the 97 getting involved in the shenanigans. And you usually think, okay, yeah, the start-finish straightaway, that's a good place to have tickets here. A good place to have tickets would probably not be here, though, for the simple sake that, I can't really speak for you, Josh, but leaving a Formula V race, I would quite like to be able to go about without having a wing mirror stuck in my head.
Yeah, it's going to be hard not to get one stuck in your head the way these guys drive at the end of every race here, but we love it. It's a pretty good one, and I really love the shot there of Jason Green coming over the rise and somebody else coming down on him as he was going up it there. Was not expecting that at all, and up the fence. That's probably a first for Jason Green, I think, to get inverted on the fence like that. Pretty funny stuff here at Weekend Warriors. We love to burn our cars down at the end, and man, I'm just here for it. It's great.
Always gotta love the Weekend Warriors. And if you like the racing action that you saw here in these shenanigans after the checkered flag, you should probably hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We got 2 more Weekend Warriors races coming up tomorrow, and then hey, we've re-racked it in 1 week's time for some more Formula V action. Got a fantastic schedule of races to look forward to all throughout Season 1 of 2025. Okayama, Thruxton, Donington Park, Sebring, Lebanon, Alton Park, Summit Point, Cadwell Park, and VIR, bringing this 12-race season to a conclusion, and more contact being made between Szynski and Jeff Jacobson. But I think
we got a big one.
We still see this chaos going on, more contact being made. Oh boy, look at Brian Dan Szynski. My apologies, coming in for the jump. This is, oh boy. Anyways, I think we'll have these absolutely wild scenes be the background as we go through the results from what we were thinking was going to be an odd race, an exciting one, and an intriguing one as well. And I think all of those expectations that we had were certainly lived up to. Thor Tulloh, though, going to be taking his second checkered flag of the season, kicked the season off with a win at Brands Hatch, and is going to continue on his winning ways here for round number 3 at New Hampshire. Jason Green, though, came oh so close to tasting the champagne for the first time during this Formula V season. Has to settle for second. Good for the championship points, considering Nate Colacio, who was in second, finishes 2.5 seconds back of Tulloh in third. Chris Montgomery going to round out your top 4, the first little nucleus of Spec 1 racers. Finishing this race in P5 is going to be the Masters racer of Jörg Monty. So well done for Monty. My apologies, folks, to grab his second Masters win from this Formula V Weekend Warrior season. Second win on the trot. One at Lime Rock 1 week ago. Wins here at New Hampshire today. Andrew Love going to go 3 for 3 to kick this season off. He's going to be finishing in 6th. Michele Lynn going to finish in 7th. So a really good drive from Michele, just not enough to grab the victory in the Spec 2 category. Jim Brewster going to finish in 8th. Then we have Mark Cohn in 9th. Adam Thompson, SMB's very own, going to round out your top 10. Trip Isley in 11th. Brian Szynski finishing in 12th. Jesus Rodriguez in 13th. Jason Perry in 14th. Jeff Jacobson finishing in P15. Halbrelio Garcia finishing this race in the 19th finishing position. Then we have Guido Marzuki in 17th. Dan Szynski in the 899 Carga finishing P18. Then we have Christopher Berry in 19th. And Daniel Salmon rounding out your top 20.
And then Michael Laturo in 21st, Nick Tulloh in 22nd, Jeffrey Beck in 23rd, David Fitzgerald in 24th, Wayne Buttermore unfortunately getting caught out there in 25th place, Joshua Justice in 26th, Travis Rail in 27th, Arthur Laturio in 28th, Jason Grider in 29th, Louis Navea in 30th, Ken Pullen in 31st, and Russ Lumberg in 32nd with the drivers that did not take the start today.
So those are our results from the third race of this Formula Vee Weekend Warriors season. And with that taken care of, we can move on into some driver interviews. And I think, I'm trying to think of who exactly I want to have a chat with here, because we have a smorgasbord of drivers to choose from here. So I'm trying to run through my head who I may want to drag in here. How about this, Josh? I think I'm going to bring in Thor Tulloh to have a chat with the Spec 1 winner, and then I'll let you have Andrew Love, because considering he's 3 for 3, showing very similar pace in the Spec 2 category here from the Formula V's as you showed in the Spec 2 category in the Formula Fords and Spec Racer Fords last season, so I figured that'd be a good mono-y-mono chat. But I'll bring in Thor Tulloh to have a quick little chat and talk about his second win of this season. Thor, well done. A pretty good recovery drive after that mistake heading into turn number 6 early on for round 1 of your battle with yourself and Jason Green. So I want to ask you about this wet and wild race here at New Hampshire.
Man, I do not know even where to start. It was it was just a very, very intense race, and I was just kicking myself for the mistake at turn 6, and I was finally getting a run on Jason, and it just went away on me. But yeah, I was slowly able to bring it back, and yeah, just barely squeezed out the win.
Yeah, it was very, very close between you two. It was a 10th and a half at the line. I want to ask you about this because, at least according to our graphics, the checkered flag coming out with 29 minutes and 50-ish seconds left, on the clock, I should say, but 9 to 10 left. So I want to ask you about that finish. Was it a very strong relief to see that checkered flag flying instead of the white, considering the run that Jason Green had on you?
Well, hey, honestly, I was just really tense when the white flag came out because Jason was much better than me through through kind of like that infield section, and just the relief of just finally crossing the line. I couldn't have held it for another lap or two. Yeah, he was doing great at the end there.
Yeah, it still looked like a pretty heads-up fight between you two, but you walk away with the victory around an oddball of a racetrack with some oddball weather conditions as well. I want to ask you about your thoughts on this racetrack, because it's a pretty peculiar one. I don't know, I kind of enjoy it in a weird, twisted way, but I want to ask you if you enjoyed it too.
I gotta be honest with you, not at all. New Hampshire Motor Speedway used to be my home track when I lived up in New Hampshire. And as much as I have good memories around here, I do not like this track at all. Like the very narrow, not a lot of runoff, just very dangerous, but made it work.
It's an old school racetrack with some old school race cars. Y'all had some old school fun, and you take the victory here today. You're second on the season, and Tulloh, congratulations on that. And before we let you go, man, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Just want to say thanks to my team, Bravo Motorsports, and just a thanks to Jason, and I want to give a big apology to Nate Colacio for almost taking him out on my rejoin. And to you guys, thanks to Slow Motion Broadcasting.
And thank you for joining us here in the SMB booth. Thor, always nice to have a chat with you, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season, looking to continue that title defense. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And that right there was Thor Tulloh taking your Spec 1 victory here today. And now, Josh, would you like to have a chat with Andrew Love?
Andrew, S2 victory today. Pretty good race out there in the rain. First time in the V's in the rain, I would imagine, for you today. How was it out there?
It was not as slippery as one would think. It's not as bad as the Fords, or especially not as bad. That's basically the only other experience I have with rain is in the Fords. It's not nearly as bad as the Fords. Just visibility and backing up your braking points a little bit. Otherwise, it wasn't horrible.
Huh. Yeah, that was kind of going to be my question there, honestly. I know me and you have battled a couple times there in the FFs and in the SRFs. Obviously never in the SRF and the rain quite yet, but, you know, the rain in the FF is a thing. It's definitely not an easy car to drive in the rain, especially on the paint, and because of the torque that it's able to put down and stuff. But it looked like this one's a little easier to handle in that aspect there. And although there was people sliding around today, it did look a little easier in the rain. Were you finding that as well?
Yeah, 100%. It's an easy car to drive in the rain compared to the Fords. And you do have to watch out for braking on the paint, because in last night's draft party, I had Trenton Kramer behind me, and I was defending going into the chicane to go up the hill around the tire wall, and I had my right side on the paint, and as soon as I touched the brakes, my car just jerked, 45 degrees to the right in front of him. So yeah, I was being careful to stay off the paint and braking and try to stay off the curbs. I was running a different setup, which seemed to be a little stiffer than my normal setup, and it didn't like the curbs as much. So I was also trying to stay off the curbs.
Yeah, there's definitely a few that rock there too, leading out onto the back part. You always want to make sure you avoid that guy.
Yeah, I love the drainage ditch one. They're coming down onto
the drainage. Yeah. So it looked like pretty good battle in S2 there today as well. It looked like Michele Lynn might take it for a bit, but you were able to catch up to the back of her and get by her nice and clean today. So that was a pretty good one there. Any words on that?
We were both trying to drive really safe. I was just talking to Michele in the waiting room, and she did mention that she was just trying to survive. So I think that's why I had an easier time. I'll say at least that's why I think I was able to catch up to her. But yeah, we were both in survival mode, and then I started to choke 2 laps to the end. I got a slowdown, and I missed my braking marker in a couple places, and I had a hard time passing that lapper on the last lap. So it's to me, again, it was the mental game, but I was pretty good with the mental game when it comes to being smooth in the rain, just not with braking.
Excellent. Yeah, it definitely is a mental game out there in the rain too. You really do have to kind of just keep it calm, and everything just happens a little bit slower, with a little more purpose and stuff in the rain. But yeah, that was a great race, Andrew, and good job to get by Michele. I think you're right there. She's had so many falling anvils this season that I'm pretty sure she was just like, okay, I'm gonna finish this one out today, and she was able to bring home a second in S2 as well, which is a great finish.
Very good for her.
Great finish as well for both of you guys. So is there anybody else out there you'd like to thank, Andrew?
Want to thank the sponsor for this week. Thank you so much for funding the broadcast. Thanks to Stevie and Jim for putting the league together and all the admin that goes on and behind the scenes stuff that no one ever sees. Thanks to you guys for doing the broadcast.
Excellent. Right on, Andrew. We will we'll see you next week, and good job on the S2 win today.
All right. Thank you, Joshua.
No problem. We'll see you soon.
And that right there was Andrew Love, your winner in the Spec 2 category. And I'm looking through, Josh. We've got a whole lot of drivers still up there in the interview waiting area, enjoying the milk and cookies and stuff that we still have left over from Santa Claus's visit a couple of weeks ago. I think I'll bring in. I'm going to possibly. I'm split now, Josh. I'll give you this proposition and ask your thoughts on it. You think we should just bring in Jörg Mani to have a quick little chat, or can I bring in Michele Lynn and you could possibly have a chat with Jörg Mani before we wrap things up? What do you? Yeah,
why don't we get them both? We got to get Michele Lynn in, and Jörg took Masters today, so let's maybe get Jörg in here, and then we'll have a quick chat with Michele here to finish her off.
Alrighty, sounds good. I'll drag Jörg Mani into the commentary booth right now, mid-sentence. Sorry about that, Jörg, but welcome back here into the commentary booth. Grabbing another victory in the Masters category here from the Formula Vees, this time at a rain-soaked New Hampshire. So talk us through it from your perspective.
No, I hate rain. That's actually a beginning with. I really don't like rain at all, any kind of car. But I thought, okay, I'm just trying it, and I keep being very, very cautious on the start. Michele was tossing me like I was standing, and some other people as well. I thought, okay, I hold myself back, try to figure it out, and then slowly I figured out the track, I figured out the corners, I figured out that when I coast, then it's better for me to go around the corners. Yeah, and then suddenly I found okay, I can go a bit faster. I'm trying, and then that worked, and then as I catched up one after the other one. So it was actually fun to drive in the rain, but I still hate it.
Fair enough. I remember loving driving in the rain in my karting days, and then kind of as I got a little bit older, I remember absolutely despising it just because I didn't like doing a race and then smelling like a wet dog immediately after, but I guess that's not really much of a problem on iRacing at the moment. That could be a new thing to iRacing to add in to get the full simulation going on, but still,
Yeah.
Jörg, I think you'll be very happy to hear about the fact that the next race at Okayama won't have to worry about any sort of rain or anything like that. So, will you be there? And if so, what are your thoughts heading into it, trying to go for your third win on the season?
I think Yokohama, I think that's the track that everybody knows from us best anyway. I had mixed races there, but usually they're pretty good. And yeah, let's see. If I can race, I do it. If not, it depends what I'm going to do on the weekends. And yeah, let's see. If I can, I will do it.
If you can't be out there on the racetrack, could you at least be in the YouTube chat tuning into the broadcast, possibly, or is that still a little bit up in the air with those weekend plans?
No, I'm definitely going to be on YouTube. If I'm not doing the race, I'm going to be on YouTube, yeah.
Awesome. Always nice to see you there, either on the racetrack or in the other YouTube chat, or even joining us in the commentary booth. Jörg, always good to have a chat with you as well. And Jörg, before we let you go and celebrate your second Masters win of the season, is there anyone you want to give a thanks or a shout out?
I'd like to every racer that was in that race, because everybody was actually really cautious. I mean, even Michele, Jim, and Andrew, and myself, we did actually all the same thing, just trying to survive. But we still had a good race, and yeah, and of course to you guys. I'm already have a pleasure to watch the YouTube video afterwards, so thanks a lot for broadcasting our races all the time.
And thank you for the kind words, and thank you as well for joining us in the commentary booth. Jörg, hope you enjoy about an hour and a half of me sounding like I'm speaking in tongues. But thank you for joining us in the commentary booth as well, Jörg, and always nice to have a chat with you. Excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and see ya.
And that right there was Jörg Monty, who I was able to get a laugh out of at the end of that interview. And Josh, I'll let you do the honors of interviewing a fellow Philadelphian. Well, fellow Philadelphian to me, just some random Philadelphian to you. That being Michele Lynn.
Michele, you had a good race today. You were able to dodge those falling anvils. Ron rains on you weekly, and today you were able to come out with a good second place in S2 there today. It looked like you were kind of biding your time a little bit and didn't put up too much of a defense with Andrew Love, I'm assuming, just to kind of make sure we finished the race today.
Okay, so like I know like Andrew got P1 in S2, and congratulations to Andrew. He's a great driver and deserves it for sure. But I just wanted to pop in here because you guys know, like, last season was like 100% anvils, and I just wanted to finish. So like I had a really good start. I timed it perfectly, and then must have been like a bunch up ahead of me to slow people down. And I don't know how many cars I passed on the front straight, but like it was a lot. Then just a matter of keeping the car under control. And then I was pushing, and then I started noticing the guys behind me dropping off, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm backing off a little bit. I just want to finish today. I don't want to get hit with an anvil, and at this track, the chance of you like spinning off is pretty high. So I backed off. When Andrew was behind me, I pushed, and then when he got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna let him by. I'll take P2. I'm fine with that. Maybe that's like the wrong attitude, but like I just wanted to finish the race today. That was it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what we were thinking here in the booth as well. We've, unfortunately, like you said, last season was a lot of anvils, and even in this season, there's been a couple anvils for you. So, yeah, we were all rooting out there. Just finish today. Make sure get, no cars in front of you, no back markers, no whatever it might be falling on you today, and you were able to keep it nice and clean. So, really good heads up thinking in the car there as well, just to, kind of put a pin on it and be like, okay, I'm gonna finish today. Let's let Andrew have his day, and and make sure that we get this car across the line. And you did in second place, and got some points for the season. And we're only in round 3, so it's all still to have for the S2 championship. And looking forward, is that what you're going for this year? You going for another championship, or what's the plan?
That would be nice. That would definitely be nice. I wouldn't mind having a third in S2. I'm back where I belong. I do not belong with the aliens, so like I'm back with my people, which is great. Yeah, I mean, if I can get like top 5s, in every race, that would be great. But yeah, I've had a couple anvils this season, and I was doing like pretty well in S2 at the time that it happened. So like, I just have to remember. I sent this picture to Jason Green yesterday. My old Formula Ford, my Merlin, my race mechanic riveted a little plaque on the dashboard that said patience. And I just kept thinking about that today. Patient, because it's so easy at this track to get the red mist. And the thing is that back in 2010, which was my last in real life race in the Formula Ford, was at this very track. And I did like a dive bomb into that last turn before you leave the infield section, and it picked up like a 6-month probation out of it. So like, I just wanted to like keep my shit together. So sorry for that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We're okay here at Slow Mo with an occasional F bomb or exactly, or whatever it is. We're all right out here, but honestly, really great to see you finish the race today. Good thinking in the car and stuff. Always lovely to speak with you, Michele. We are headed out, I believe, to Okayama next weekend. Is that one of your favorite tracks, or not so much?
In a word, well, I guess in several words, I hate that track with a passion. Jim Brewster's fast there, so I would say watch out for Jim at that track. He's really quick there. But I'm just gonna that track's gonna be like survive the track, and try to get like a top 5 or something in S2, and I'll be like more than happy.
Excellent. Yeah, you know what? Okayama, not one of my favorite tracks really either. Maybe it's because we all visit it so often in our early iRacing careers, but you're definitely correct about Jim Brewster. Actually, I think the last time I was racing at Okayama, he was right beside me for most of the race. I couldn't shake him. So he'll probably have some pace there next weekend. And always a pleasure to talk with you, Michele. Is there anybody you'd like to thank here before we let you go?
Stevie, of course, for putting up with like all the constant chaos. All of you guys, Jim. Honestly, I'm just gonna. I'll name everyone, but I just want to thank everyone. And really, that's about it. Sorry.
No, that's great.
I'm like flabbergasted right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right on. So good second place today, and we will see you next week. Michele, thank you for the thank yous.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
And that right there was Michele Lynn, who I'm sure is very happy about the fact that she has been able to get her shift together, according to her words. But Josh, a really compelling day of racing action. Usually from the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors, you get a usual standard of racing. You get a whole lot of overtaking. You get those draft parties forming. But in our time covering this series together, stretching back to the start of last season for Season 4 of 2024, we've only seen a couple of races that have bucked that trend. I can really just think of Letting On last season and here at New Hampshire. I don't know about you, Josh, but I really liked it. It was a more methodical approach to racing with not just like a NASCAR super speedway-esque race. Lots of these drivers having to use their heads in ways that they don't usually think of, instead of thinking of the strategy of when to back off, when not to. They had to think of when to try and get a move done, where to take it easy, and how to keep it on the road. I really like that race that we just saw here, Josh. What about you?
Yeah, I think maybe, Ron, that we're bucking the trend of these kind of oval with the infields, being they've been controversial over the years, let's say. Some people really don't like them very much. And to be honest, every time we come to one of these, we've had a really good race. So I'm always looking forward to these ones. I think New Hampshire's a great track. I like the oval with the infield concept. It seems to work, especially with the V's here. And once again, we've had a really good race, Ron. So looking forward to next week at Okayama. And anytime we have one of these oval with an infield, I'm always looking forward to it.
Yeah, Rovals are always a fun track to run around. However, I believe it'll be the only one that we run at all throughout this season. But despite that, we still got some awesome racetracks to look forward to. Okayama in 1 week's time, Thruxton, Donington Park, Sebring, Lebanon, Alton Park, Summit Point, Cadwell Park, and VIR, bringing this 12-race season to a close. We've got some awesome stuff coming up here on SMB as well, because despite the fact this broadcast is near enough to its conclusion, the action simply does not end here. In fact, it doesn't even end this weekend, as coming up tomorrow, we've got the action from the other Weekend Warriors series of Formula Fords going to be ringing in the third race of their season, running at Snetterton, a pretty draft-heavy racetrack, if I do say so myself. And oh boy, speaking of draft-heavy races, Spa with the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, that's going to be a really intriguing race as well. If you're in the mood for some more Formula V's, again at Okayama, this is upcoming Saturday, January the 11th, but some more action from the Ray Esports Club Racing League after a break for the holidays and the New Year's. Happy New Year, everybody. We come back with some GT4 action running at Watkins Glen. 70 minutes of racing coming up this Wednesday, and if that doesn't give you a reason to subscribe to Slow Motion Broadcasting, I really don't know what does. So that's all the stuff coming up here on SMB, but as for stuff coming up on this broadcast, it's the ads, and then we can re-rack it for tomorrow. Josh is going to be behind the wheel, I'm going to be behind the microphone, and hopefully all of you can be there for that really fun day of racing action. But as for today, I think that'll just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's broadcast, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future. We welcome you all to Slow Motion for this presentation of the Formula Vee Weekend Warriors Series, and we're about to grab the start in just a few moments' time. It's going to be Megan Overstreet leading them to green with Ladar right alongside. We're waiting for that green flag to come at, and the drivers are now on their way. Some of these drivers may be a little bit more aggressive towards the end of this race, as side by side with Love and Degassis heading into 5.
Oh, it's close. It's a bit treacherous on the corner. Rex is just seeing Lynn run wide there, Ron.
Down the running order, Love and Brewster, meanwhile, they have been in the tow, and they've seen all these drivers try and do their own maneuvers. They definitely have something cooking behind the wheel of those FV race cars. As Montgomery gets that move done, one's running at the back. Well, not actually running right now, I don't believe, as there's a spinner with Ladar.
Oh, no.
Oh, and there's contact as well.